Hello everyone. Doing another video here, chatting into the microphone, answering a question that I'm going to mispronounce this, but Tengwar Metal on YouTube, Tengwar Metal, one word. Tengwar Metal on YouTube asked me to do a video regarding my influences as a songwriter, guitar player, vocalist, lyricist, musician in general. And so I made some notes and thought about it, and it's funny, it's been the same for a long time, I suppose. I get into some new stuff, but very rarely do I obsess over a particular musician. So the ones I've collected along the way, they stand out to me. What should I do first? We'll do guitar playing because that's quick and pretty easy. Guitar playing's pretty easy. Malcolm Young from AC/DC is my favorite guitar player, and he has been for a long time. I just love the way he hits the guitar and gets a sound out of it. I've never really heard anyone else get a sound out of a guitar like Malcolm Young did. Angus is like the lead guy, and it's pretty spectacular when you're young watching the lead work. But as I got older, I realized that Malcolm, especially after he died, you realize that Malcolm's rhythm was really the driving force behind the greatness of AC/DC, the simplicity in the greatness. I mean, they're not Dream Theater, we know that, but still, like, Malcolm's guitar playing was a massive influence on me. I try and hit it like him. And then as I went on and got older and stuff, I got into a bit of like shred, but Randy Rhoads was always my favorite lead player. I loved his guitar solos. They were just so dazzling, but so concise and crafted. I love Eddie Van Halen as well, and he's just like a wild improvisational, pyrotechnical guy. But Randy Rhoads for me just always had it in terms of like crafting a solo. Just still adore his playing. It's such a shame the production on those Ozzy Osbourne albums stinks. It sounds so thin and terrible. It's such a shame. Shoot me the DIs. Shoot me the DIs of that. I wouldn't mind having a crack at mixing that myself. Couldn't do any worse than the albums that came out, I'm sure. Couldn't do much worse. Some notable mentions though. Got to say, Jimi Hendrix. Thought he was cool as fuck. Still do. His playing is, what can you say about it? It's not technical, it's not precise, but it's magical. Like, Hendrix just had this magic. There's just certain notes on the records where he bends and like hits the wah at a certain point, and just the thing just like wails in a way that I just absolutely love. And his chord work with his use of like sustained, like sus-add 4s and sus-add 2s, just inventing his own chords. I'm sure he wasn't a theoretical man, but like, yeah, a flame that burned very brightly for a very short time and changed everything forever. Just, it must have been pretty wild for there to be, you know, Les Paul, Buddy Holly, and like, you know, the great blues and stuff. But then Hendrix was just like he was from another planet or something like that. Another notable mention has to go to Zakk Wylde. I absolutely adore those pinch harmonics. It was love at first sight, oral sight, love at first ping. Those squill notes on the low strings it's just something I always call upon when I can't think of how to finish a riff. Yeah, Dory's guitar playing, I grew out of it. Like, the Viking thing just got fucking naff. And you know, when I grew up and realized that, you know, alcohol's actually kind of dumb, I kind of grew out of Zakk Wylde a little bit, but I'll always adore his like early playing. Very exciting pentatonics. I don't know what happened, but like his playing, I lost the excitement in his playing as time went on, but that early stuff, he just had a way of dancing across pentatonic scales and making them sound very exciting. So, yeah, massive shout out to Zakk Wylde. What's next? Vocals. All right, so yeah, as a vocalist, it's changed a lot over the years because I used to adore sort of like front men, and I always idolized Bon Scott And yeah, not a great idol to have. Uh, in terms of how to live your life, like the romanticize, the romanticization, the romanticizing of the you know, the party lifestyle is something. As I got older, I actually kind of despise it now. I don't know who he was as a man, but by all accounts he was a good bloke. And but you know, I don't know him. I know from the, like, what the media tells of his you know, drunken nights and just that pirate lifestyle. And I'm sure he was a wonderful, you know, free spirit. And it probably wasn't all the crack. In fact, you know, some of the stuff you find out with, like, letters he used to send to his ex-wife, he was actually kind of over it. And yeah, kind of, it's obviously tragic. He died so young of something so silly. But I used to idolize Bon Scott. And I still love his approach to rock and roll vocals. He had that, like, Little Richard thing going on. But as time sort of got on, and now I appreciate lots of different things as opposed to just listening. I went through a stage where I just listened to AC/DC and that was it. But as time go on, you know, you discover, like, Dio and Lemmy, two amazing vocals. Like, again, Lemmy's not a technician. Dio was definitely a technician. And both great vocal styles, just perfect for the music. There's something to learn from that about, like, whatever band Dio sang in. I'm not sure if it was just because he was just that good, but he always found a way to sing in each band. And of course, Lemmy, like, what, you know, he is the sound of Motorhead, and no one, like, sings like that. And it's kind of like, it's harder to do. He's not just shouting. Like, you go and sing Lemmy, like, he sang it for decades and decades. Like, most people can't sing like that for an afternoon. Like, it was him. It was authentic. That's what I like about his vocals. Honorable mentions. There's a few here for vocals, actually. I've recently sort of become a really keen student of the vocals. I'm trying to improve my own vocals at this point in time, so I'm really getting around vocals and hearing it for the first time as a student. When you sort of learn how the sausage is made, you sort of grow to appreciate sausage. I'm not sure where I'm going with that, but Floor Jansen from Nightwish, my old band Tabara, toured with Nightwish when they came to Australia in 2016 on the Endless Forms Most Beautiful tour. And I still listen to that album. Her vocals, I watched her go out and like, as a spectator, she was perfect every single night. And I'm sure she would have known that there must have been bum notes in there, but, like, I was stunned at how together Nightwish were. And I watched the stage get built, and I watched, like, it was the first time I saw, like, the professional touring act, like the global stadium act. Like, I watched how the whole machine worked, everything from the roadies, like, bumping the gear in, to the musical crescendos. Like, the whole thing just stunned me. I was so taken aback by the professionalism, and like, listening to her warm up and just go about her. But yeah, watching her go about her business was like a massive kick in the up the butt for me, because I was just you know, flying by the seat of my pants in life and music at that point. Like, yeah, I was really taken aback. I was like, oh fuck, this is how the big boys do it. This is how the big bands actually do it. Like, we're barely, you know, barely a dust mite. What? Yeah, I don't know how to elaborate on that any further. But Floor Jansen, massive vocal influence on me, and thankfully she made a YouTube vocal masterclass, which I highly implore you to go and listen if you want to learn how to sing. She's got 4 videos, and really got me on the way to figuring out what I was doing wrong vocally. Who else? Aretha Franklin, another voice I absolutely adore. Like, her and Tina Turner, these great American soul singers. Aretha, I love Aretha's voice. It's like the gospel, the spirit in it. Like, it's authentic again. Like, I love authentic voices. And Tina Turner was the same thing. I think Tina Turner, she had a great rock voice. Like, you take away that stupid dance for Nutbush and listen to it as a song, and she is delivering that rock song in the key of A, like not many people can, very few can. Who else? John Farnham, Australian singer. Again, he just he built his voice, and he had like a career. It was all very naff and early, but by the time he really hit his stride a bit later on in life, his voice is incredible, and just the delivery and the power and the control of it is something that I really aspire to do. So I have to shout out to John Farnham. Another big influence on me is Johannes Eckerström from Avatar. They're a pretty recent band. They're kind of having their moment now, but he's a fantastic vocalist. He gets across the like the growly stuff. He's got many different arrows in his quiver, and I love that. But his singing voice is his melodic singing voice is so dynamic and so useful across many styles. And I love the way he goes about it as well. Like he's got some great interviews out there where he's talking about the fact that there's no shortcuts. You just have to do the practice. You have to arrive early, leave late, work your vocals. And that's the attitude that I kind of idolize in people now, and what I aspire to be, just someone that does the work, not through some fairy tale of talent or anything silly and conjured up like that, but just like the sheer work and the results that come from being your authentic self and doing the work to build the technique. Yeah, that's the influences on vocalists. I had some more notes here. So songwriting and lyrics, kind of the... No, actually, I would differentiate that too. I'll split them up. I'll do songwriting first. Actually, that's a little bit of a bigger note. We'll do lyrics because it's a little bit quicker. So as far as lyrics go, there's one name that comes to mind. His name is Ben Delacour. You probably haven't heard of him because he's not getting played in supermarkets like Taylor Swift, but the quality of his lyrics is unbelievable. It's unbelievable how he can so quickly paint a picture that really strikes you. And if you go and check out his stuff, you're bound to find something that resonates with you, and it will go deep. It will dig deep into you, like so few sort of lyricists can. He's like a Townes Van Zandt or a Leonard Cohen type, and had the privilege to have time with him to ask him questions about how he goes about it. And one of the things he said to me that really struck me as an important piece of advice was, how did he put it? He said, he's like, songwriting isn't for pussies. you got to take what scares you and what you're vulnerable about and all the things about yourself that you are embarrassed about, and you've got to like double down on them, because that's what makes you unique as a songwriter. And I love that, because you just won't hear that anywhere else. Songwriting's not for pussies. Another thing that he said that I've heard other people who are notable lyricists and creators say is, you've got to, how did he put it? Be specific as possible. Don't try and be too broad. Like, not every, like, we already had Imagine by John Lennon, where that's a universal message. You know, like he said, don't try and do stuff like that. Be specific. Be as specific as possible, and cut right to the core of it in as little words as possible. You know, trim all the fat, which is great advice as a lyricist and a songwriter. Something I'm trying to do to improve my own work. And he loves his fiction. Like, he writes these sort of stories, but there's so much truth within it, and you don't make that obvious. You hide the truth in the fiction, and that's the beauty of fiction. Sometimes fiction can tell more truth than non-fiction. Something that I've picked up from him. And another lyricist I have to mention, my friend Andrew from a band called Harlot. I had a good chat with him one day years ago, and I was asking him how he goes about it, because he's very different to Ben Delacour. It's like technical thrash, so he's spitting a lot of words, and I really like the way he goes about it. He's how did we come to this point in the? I think I asked him. It's like, hey man, I'm trying to convey XYZ in this song. How would you go about it? And he explained to me his philosophy of always alluding to XYZ. You never mention it. So kind of the opposite. It's kind of Ben Delacour about being as specific as possible. So that's the nature of good advice, though. Like, not, you know, there's no one sort of universal way to go about songwriting. So two lyricists that I really enjoy going about it in a very different way. So yeah, Hutto, as I affectionately call him, you can call him Andrew. he alludes to XYZ. He paints the picture of XYZ as opposed to, you know, telling the story. Yeah, and that's about as concise as I can get on that, I think. I won't try and dig in there too much. That lastly leaves influences on songwriting. I started off with the greats. It was the Beatles. It was the Rolling Stones. I had parents that were into music. My dad plays guitar. He's a bit like he's a home noodler. He had like his weekend warrior band and stuff when I was growing up. So there was always music about the house. And my dad was a complete Beatles nut, a maniac. And my mum was like into the stuff that was like around when she was a teenager, which was like kind of 70s glam rock, like T-Rex, John Paul Young. Like Australia used to have this amazing culture of rock and roll, like in the 70s. Like we might have been the best at like pop rock. And I wish I could, maybe I should do a video on it, because there's so much incredible work from, and like originality and authenticity from Australia in the 70s. We had like the Skyhooks, John Paul Young. It was all coming out of like Harry Vander and George Young, out of Albert Studios or Albert Productions. I'm forgetting the details on that, so forgive me. But yeah, Australia had this amazing culture of original music, and I watched it get not only killed, but the corpse absolutely defiled on mainstream television by Australian Idol in the early 2000s. When it probably happened earlier than that, but that's when I noticed it. Like it probably happened with Silverchair, as the record companies tried to lunge and clutch at popular American culture and try and replicate it here. And to be fair, Australia always did that, but that was back in the time before you could get records shipped. So instead of, you couldn't just get Elvis's album in Australia, you had to have a guy sing the songs. And I think that his name was Johnny O'Keefe. He did a lot of rock and roll covers and was kind of Australia's first sort of pop star, rock star. But yeah, you had to have a guy come and sing the song. You couldn't just get the records. So, you know, at least we had, you know, there was a reason for lunging at the culture, because there wouldn't have been music otherwise. But yeah, I watched the culture get absolutely defiled in the early 2000s, and now Australia struggles to, I don't even think we have a musical identity anymore. I mean, you've got Airborne running around doing exactly the same shit that AC/DC did, but that's like, that's not it. As much as I enjoy that first album, Running Wild was great, but I mean, boys, that horse is flogged. It's dead. It's like paste in the ground at this point. It's like it's soaked into the dirt. Stop flogging it. Grow beards, take LSD, and do a do something fucking crazy. Do like a rock and roll Sergeant Pepper. Sergeant Pepper was pretty rock and roll, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, so I learned from the greats, the Beatles and the Stones, and the I could always sense the formula in the pop rock stuff that my mum would listen to. Like I could tell it was fun, and like there's just no better word to describe it. Like it's a little bit, it's like gay in the true sense of the word, of like bright and jubilant, and yeah, I always sort of knew the sense was like, kind of music was supposed to be fun. And that early AC/DC stuff, you could tell it was like, you could tell they were playing in dance halls, because everything in Australia just had this like stomp to it. Like it was dance music that that everyone could enjoy. And the bands would like, you know, wear women's clothing and stuff, and like no one gave a shit. Like it was just fun. So I always, yeah, could sense the formula there of how to, like, you know, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, or, you know, I always saw that formula. Even as a young kid, I was always well aware of it. And yeah, the Beatles and the Stones and the T-Rexes and the Sweet and Alice Cooper and all that stuff that I got exposed to just kind of became the DNA of my own music. So later in life, well, actually no, we won't jump ahead. Shortly after that, I kind of got like massively into video games as a kid in the 90s. Video games were like in an incredible renaissance of like platforming and adventure games and sort of like narrative driven one player games. Like obviously Zelda and Final Fantasy. I didn't play that one. Like I had a Nintendo, so I was playing Zelda, and the music in that struck me. Like the emotion the emotion that Koji conveyed with such limitations it still amazes me to this day. God knows what he could have made using the technology that I have now in this room. But the stuff he got done, the impact to make something that have such an impact on an entire generation of kids is just remarkable when you think about it, really. That ocarina had like 6 notes. I think 8-Bit Theory did a video on it. I think there's 6 notes on that ocarina, and he made so many songs that you can, like, I could hear now and be able to name. An incredible composer. And there was other video games that get notable mentions. I love the soundtrack to Metal Gear Solid, which is a little bit more like not techno, but like tech, like it's synths and that kind of atmospheric, a synthy sort of technological atmosphere. And I witnessed the difference between Zelda and Metal Gear Solid, and like Banjo-Kazooie. I love Grant. His surname is completely eluding me right now. Kirkwood? Grant? Kirkhope or Kirkwood? I can't. He did Banjo-Kazooie and Perfect Dark, another soundtrack that I absolutely love. The Perfect Dark 64 soundtrack. It broke my heart with those sequels, and I don't know if like this little trailer I saw of this Perfect Dark they've got coming up, I'm not ready to be heard again. I'll wait and see on that one. But yeah, his music and his sense of melody, like that Banjo-Kazooie soundtrack is like medically catchy. Like, I don't know what the term is I'm looking for, but it is, it's like it's a pathogen, those melodies, like Click Clock Wood and, just terrific melody writing and like the looping of it all to make it, repetitive, but not so uninteresting that you get bored by it. Like it's an amazing study in how to make your shit interesting, and the general sense of like action and mood in those games is something I try and convey in my music now. And honorable mention to the Song of Healing in Majora's Mask, like that chord and the way it's used in the storyline at certain points when people are having these revelations, or you're healing these spirits, like stuff like that. It just really moved me and stuck with me until, this day. I still try and I would love to create moments like that. And I really lent into it in A Terrible Fate, trying to convey moments where something was happening and try and convey it with the music. It's something I'll aspire to do for the rest of my life. And on that note, later in life, I got into more sort of, I have gotten into more proggy type things, or just bigger compositions. And but the most notable example of that I can think of is a band called Elder. You may or may not know, but Nick played a solo on Courage. It's one of the highlights of my musical life, because I was trapped in my day job listening to Elder, wishing I could like do something cool with my life, like make big albums like they do, and yeah, to have him on that album is just a real crown. It's the crown jewel of that album. It's like pretty much right at the end, and just really brought the whole thing together. Wouldn't have been the same album without it, I don't think. Not to me, anyway. So yeah, they're just big and heavy. They make big, pretty music with big, heavy riffs, and I love that. And there's such magic to it. There's a lot of musical styles that have a magic to it that I sort of sit back and enjoy and don't try and dissect how. But like, you know, stuff like Ella Fitzgerald and no, not Ella Fitzgerald, sorry, Billie Holiday. To be specific, I know they're like similar stuff, but to be specific, like the Billie Holidays, like I have no idea what scales they're using or, you know, how that stuff is made, but and I kind of prefer it that way. Just leave it to be magical. But I think that's pretty much most of my influences. I'm sure I've missed some, but you know what it's like. Like you get into things and then you move on. Like Pantera were pretty cool once too, but then I just got over swear words. Like, you know, all of a sudden it was like, what's the point of this again? And can we just cut straight to the cool riff and Dimebag's cool solo? Do we really need all of this shouting? You know what I mean? Like you grow in and out of stuff. But I think that's a pretty good summary of what's kept me ticking, what's kept my what's kept me hard, what's kept me rigid, keeping me turned on musically in life. So hope you enjoyed the video. Tengwa Metal, I hope that sums it up. And keep the questions coming, guys. And also, I got a Patreon where I do videos like this, and it's kind of like an artistic self-help channel that I've got going on. So check that out. It might be for you, it might not. But I thank you for watching anyway. Thanks. Check you later. Check you later? The people still say that? I'm ending the video. I'm out.